We are now convening for debate number 5, which is education, and I'd like to just welcome the officials from the department and all our guests to this debate. We will now ask the Secretary to read.
Debate on Vote 5, Education, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. I see the Honourable Minister Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Honourable Premier in absentia.
Minister Schaefer, before you proceed, if I could just ask you to take your seat, I'd like to ask members, the process is that there's a speaker on the floor. The speaker presents via the chair. We do not engage in one-on-one contact across the floor with each other. So if I could ask Minister Schaefer if you could speak to the chair, and if members have questions, that they rise and ask if they can pose a question. Thank you. Let's be orderly and get through this one quickly. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaker, Honourable Premier in absentia, fellow members of the Provincial Cabinet, Honourable members of the Provincial Legislature, Superintendent General of Education, and all senior officials in the Education Department, Chairman of the Education Council, Mr. Bruce Probyn, and members, representatives of the school governing body associations and unions, invited guests, and my very most special invited guests, my husband Mark and my daughters Alyssa and Caitlin, without whom I could not do what I do, and who enrich my life immeasurably. Madam Speaker, I present today the 2016-17 budget for the Western Cape Education Department. It is my privilege to welcome a number of special guests here today, whom I will introduce at the appropriate time in my speech. Madam Speaker, the last year has certainly been a most memorable year in education for a variety of reasons. Some of them were positive, and some not so much. On the positive side, as a result of strong internal financial controls, the WCED achieved a clean audit for the 2014-15 financial year, and yes, we're very proud of that clean audit, becoming the first Department of Education in South Africa since democracy to do so. Then, of course, my personal highlight was the release of the 2015 National Senior Certificate results. The Western Cape was the only province to have improved on its 2014 results, achieving the highest pass rate and bachelor pass rate in the country. We were also very proud when the National Minister announced that 2 of the top 3 matriculants in the country came from the Western Cape. Andrew Tucker from Sachs and William May from Tygerberg High School. Very well done to them. As a lawyer, I would also like to congratulate especially Claire Rankin, who is here with us today, and her mother, and Clara Marie Masheke, who unfortunately can't be with us because she's gone away, lucky her. And we are very pleased to have them here from Springfield Convent for taking the top spot at the International Schools Moot Court competition in The Hague after toppling Team USA. With the release of the results of the 2015 Language and Mathematics systemic tests, we saw pleasing improvements, especially in the area of mathematics, indicating that our many interventions in these areas are working. Further evidence of this was when Sweet Valley Primary School claimed the #1 spot in the National AMISA Maths competition. For those who don't know, AMISA Maths is the difficult one, and very well done to Principal Ian Ryan and Deputy Principal and Maths teacher Mark Rushby. Unfortunately, they could also not be here today. In the past year, we also saw the launch of some new strategies and pilots, which I will elaborate on later. While we have had much to celebrate, it has also been a challenging year for a number of reasons, one of which directly impacts the budget I am presenting today. It is common knowledge that our country finds itself in a very difficult financial position. Despite our province's frugal financial management, as well as that we are experiencing a higher economic growth rate than the country as a whole, the Western Cape is unfortunately still greatly affected by this. As a result of these difficulties, which are beyond our control, the Western Cape government has had to make some very tough decisions. Decisions that affect various areas of expenditure within the education budget. They are decisions that we would prefer to have avoided making. One of the main reasons for our financial difficulties, as we have referred to on numerous occasions, is the recent nationally negotiated wage increases. It is somewhat ironically termed improvement in conditions of service. Given the dire implications for our budget, I do have to ask if it is really going to improve the conditions of teachers. It is inescapable that our class sizes will increase. We have no choice. I have seen a comment by a union asking what plans the department is going to put in place to deal with the increasing learner numbers. The reality we sit with is that the only plans we can make are plans that involve doing more with less. It is time that the realization spread across South Africa that there is not a bottomless pit of money to satisfy everyone's increasing demands. The effects of the wage increases alone on our department's budget over the MTEF will be approximately 1.3 billion rand based on this year's inflation figures, which are increasing by the day. This pressure is likely to increase, as I say. The shortfall that needs to be funded, over and above the provisions we had budgeted for, is approximately 450 million rand for the 2016-17 financial year. The WCED has had to look long and hard at our budget to determine how we can fund the shortfall. This is an extremely complex issue that involves trying to maintain stability in the system, retain as many of our pro-poor initiatives as possible, and still try to ensure that we move forward in achieving our strategic goals and equipping our learners for life in the 21st century. 75% of our budget is allocated for the compensation of employees. The remaining 25% is needed to fund all other programs contained in this budget, including norms and standards funding, furniture, textbooks, infrastructure, examinations, learner transport, school nutrition, school safety, and game changers. So here I stand today presenting a budget that, over the past few months, has brought us many challenges. However, despite these challenges, I believe it is a budget that reflects positively on the strategic outcomes we have set to achieve. Madam Speaker, earlier this month, the Provincial Minister of Finance announced that within the MTEF, the Western Cape Education Department would receive over a third of the provincial budget, an investment in education of 61 billion rand. The department will receive 19.2 billion rand for the 2016-17 financial year. While this does represent an increase from the previous year, this increase does not cover the cost of the increases pertaining to the ICS. The bulk of the department's funding is for Programme 2, Public Ordinary School Education, with an allocation of 73.2% of the budget. This is followed by Programme 6, Infrastructure Development, with an allocation of 1.4 billion rand. In the Western Cape, 6.1% of the budget is allocated to special needs, 7.5% to administration, and 3.4% will be allocated to early child development in grade R. In each of these programs, we have committed ourselves to spending on projects, resources, and people that will fulfill our objective to provide quality education to all the learners in this province, as outlined in our strategic plan for 2015 to 2019 and the provincial strategic plan. These objectives seek to improve the level of language and mathematics in all schools, increase the number and quality of passes in the National Senior Certificate, and increase the quality of education provision in poorer communities. Madam Speaker, given the extreme financial constraints we face, we have as a government prioritised our frontline services, for which I am grateful to my Cabinet colleagues and Provincial Treasury. In education, we have done our utmost to preserve the funding allocated to pro-poor initiatives. These initiatives include the compensation for fee exemption of poorer learners, learner transport, and other forms of funding to schools. In fact, many of our strategies aim to ensure that our poorer schools are prioritised in terms of service delivery and rollout, which I will highlight throughout my speech. Our government has gone beyond national norms in supporting our poorest schools. For example, in 2014, the WCED offered 216 public schools serving poorer communities the option to apply for no-fee status. This was done to assist our poorest schools in quintiles 4 and 5 in alleviating some of the funding challenges they faced. In the 2016-17 financial year, we will continue to support the 216 schools that have been declared no-fee schools through our own funding mechanisms. We will also continue to compensate schools that serve poor communities by the provision of fee compensation. In 2016-17, the WCED has allocated just over 46.3 million rand to assist parents who simply cannot afford to pay their children's school fees. In total, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that 98.5% of our schools are either no-fee schools or have benefited from fee compensation. This not only highlights the WCED's commitment to assisting our poorest schools, but also our commitment to assisting our fee-paying schools to accommodate poorer learners. Our norms and standards funding to schools will also increase this next financial year, contrary to the first erroneous circular that was sent to schools last week. In 2016-17, no-fee schools in quintiles 1 to 3 will receive an increased amount of 1,144 rand per learner. Quintile 4 schools will receive 590 rand and quintile 5, 204 rand per learner. One of the WCED's biggest cost drivers is learner transport. With an increased growth in our province, this has led to an increased demand for this service. 4 years ago, in 2012-13, we budgeted 203 million rand on learner transport. This financial year, we will be allocating 311.956 million rand. This is 34.871 million rand more than last year. Despite the budgetary constraints, I am pleased that our department has found a way to ensure that this service has not been cut. I would very much have liked to expand it, but unfortunately it is not possible. Sorry. As an alternative to learner transport, the WCED also provides subsidized hostel accommodation where available. One of the main driving factors behind the hostels is to provide a safe environment where learners are able to participate in a variety of sports activities, receive extra academic support from staff, as well as receive 3 meals a day. To meet this growing need, we are therefore allocating an increased amount of over 52.3 million rand to increase access to our hostel facilities. In education, we deal with the effects of poverty every day, with thousands of children from poor communities attending our province's schools, many of whom arrive at school hungry. The Western Cape government is committed to ensuring that 465,000 of our poorest learners receive not just 1, but 2 nutritious meals at 1,023 schools every day. The amount allocated to the feeding program for the 2016-17 financial year is just over 315.3 million rand. We have also taken over the Mod Centre feeding program from the Department of Social Development, to which is allocated 45.5 million rand. However, I do have a serious concern about the increasing cost of certain food items, such as maize, as a result of the drought we are experiencing across South Africa. This has already led to unexpected increases in cost for feeding scheme food items. Just this month, we received an additional bill of 6 million rand from our service provider to cover these increases, and it does not seem likely that these pressures will ease over the next year. We are therefore investigating innovative ways in which to ensure the nutritional value and quantity of our meals remains the same, despite these increases. I also have raised the issue with the National Minister last week. Madam Speaker, as is evident from what I have already said, we are trying to do more with less, and any assistance that falls in line with our APP and strategic plan from the private sector and other non-profit organizations is welcomed. It is on that note that I would like to share with you an update of the pilot we commenced with earlier this year called the Collaboration Schools Initiative. The Collaboration School is a public, no-fee school partnered with a non-profit school support organization committed to increasing the quality of teaching and learning in that school in order to substantially improve the school's educational outcomes. The pilot is currently operating well in 3 schools. Each of these schools caters for learners from poor communities. These public schools will receive extra training and development opportunities for their principals and teachers, additional resources for goods and services such as educational aids, scholastic materials, extra books, extracurricular activities, and funding for additional staff such as teaching assistants and a social worker in some cases. The accountability mechanisms will also be enhanced. In other words, these schools will be provided with a range of additional resources which they otherwise would not necessarily receive and which we cannot afford, all to the benefit of the learner and improving the quality of education in our schools. Another exciting initiative that we have launched this year, which speaks directly to improving our language and mathematics levels of learners at 105 of our poorer primary schools, is the Grade R to 3 Living Lab project. The project therefore aims to improve teaching methods and delivery at these schools through targeted interventions, monitoring and implementation, and measuring impact. It also seeks to improve the involvement of parents in the education of their children. Competency-based assessment tests have been completed for the foundation phase HOD at the respective schools. The results of these tests will then inform where development of each HOD is needed, and targeted training and development will be provided. 3 NGOs have come on board to assist us with reading and mentorship programs. The WCED is also fast-tracking the provision of education technology at the schools as part of the Western Cape Government's e-learning Game Changer program. On that note, some good progress has been made in 2 of the game changers that directly involve our schools. The e-learning Game Changer is designed to make a major contribution towards improving the quality of teaching and learning in the province and entrenching the skills people need to participate in our technology-driven economy. We have refined the Game Changer to align it with all 3 of our departmental strategic goals. The WCED has invested 307.4 million rand towards e-learning in the 2016-17 financial year, and over 1.2 billion rand over a 5-year period. WCED is working to ensure that every school in the province begins to feel the benefits and transformative nature of this exciting project. Within the last year or so, we have installed 4,267 technology-enabled smart classrooms across 309 schools, connected 676 schools with a wide area network, installed 30 new wireless LANs covering all instruction rooms at such schools as at the 15th of March, refurbished 125 general computer labs and 180 CAT IT EGD subject-specific labs. Within the next financial year, we hope to see another 100 schools within quintiles 1, 2, 3, 4 and LSEN schools receive LANs, and 400 additional smart classrooms across 37 quintile 1 to 4 and SNE schools. While this rollout is taking place, we have also embarked on a pilot which will involve 16 schools. These schools will be connected to a WAN and LAN infrastructure. Each classroom will be a smart classroom, and every learner will be allocated a device. These schools will develop examples of best practice on how to best integrate e-learning into the classroom. I was delighted when I recently attended the National Teachers Awards to witness our very own Khafiza Ismail from Spine Road High School win the National Teaching Award for Excellence in Technology-Enhanced Teaching and Learning. It is clear that some of our teachers have already grabbed the opportunities that ICT brings, and I hope that they will be able to share their knowledge with others. Another one of our ICT champions is Warren Sparrow, here today also. Head of Information and Communication Technology of Rondebosch Boys Preparatory School. He has recently been nominated for Global Teacher of the Year Award and was ranked in the top 50 in the world. Very well done, Mr. Sparrow. We are very proud to have you as one of our very own in the Western Cape. Madam Speaker, the after-school game changer, which is predominantly in our schools, has made progress over the last year. The provision of after-school programs is a necessity in some areas, not only to keep our children safe and occupied after school, but also to engage with them on extramural mathematics and language programs, tutoring, sporting activities, and cultural and behavioral programs. Minister Marais will give more detail of this program in her budget speech. WCD has budgeted 106 million rand for the after-school program, which includes allocations for tutoring, equipment, maintenance, feeding, and sports fields. Madam Speaker, we believe that the programs I have outlined so far will contribute to improved learner outcomes in this province. However, it is important that they run parallel to other strategies that aim to improve teacher development and capacity in the classroom, with the aim of improving the levels of mathematics and language in our schools. It is imperative that our teacher development plans incorporate the e-learning game changer, as well as the new language and math strategies. Ongoing training and development of our educators, with a particular focus on language and mathematics strategies and e-learning ICT integration, will be prioritized. The WCD will be investing 146 million rand on training and development of both teachers and staff. As I mentioned earlier, I was pleased with the results of the 2015 systemic testing, which showed marked improvements in mathematics and language in the Western Cape over the last 5 years. The systemic tests provide the most objective picture possible of learner performance in language and mathematics, giving us the opportunity to assess whether we are improving the quality of education in the province. This year, the WCED launched new language and mathematics strategies, which seek to further improve the quality of teaching and learning in all grades to ensure better learner performance and greater retention of learners in the schooling system, in line with our strategic goals. On this note, I would like to congratulate another two of my special guests for their writing and language skills. We first of all have our very own spelling bee champion with us today, Erin Sloan, a grade 6 learner, well now grade 7, from Greenfield Girls Primary School, who won the national trophy in the 2015 spelling bee competition held in Johannesburg in October last year. Well done, Erin. We are also very pleased to have with us here today Joel Greek, who has just been a jet setter and flown back from overseas 2 days ago from New York after receiving an award as winner of a global essay competition hosted by the Lions Club International and the United Nations. Joel is partially blind, 12 years old, and is a grade 7 learner at the Athlone School for the Blind in Belleville South. His winning essay on shared peace was chosen from contestants from over 100 countries that form part of the Lions Club's international network. And he's a very inspirational young man who's dealing with some very difficult issues. Very well done, Joel. Congratulations to all of you. Madam Speaker, I cannot complete this speech without addressing the issue of accommodation in our schools. The reality is that this year alone, over 24,000, in fact, almost 25,000 learners from other provinces enrolled in the Western Cape. To accommodate all these learners would require another 22 schools and 700 educators just for this year's intake, additional intake. School infrastructure, therefore, remains a priority for this government as we seek to keep up with growing demand in this province, as well as replace buildings that were built with inappropriate materials. In 2016-17, the WCED will be investing 1.4 billion rand in infrastructure, of which 768 million rand will be allocated for new and replacement schools. I'm pleased to announce that 15 WCED-funded replacement schools are being built in the current MTEF, as well as 3 as CD-funded replacement schools and 5 as CD sports fields. The 2016-17 financial year will see the completion of 4 new schools and 3 replacement schools. WCED also plans to hand over 8 new schools, one of which is a special school for learners with disabilities and high support needs. The WCED will also commence building an additional 7 schools in the current financial year. We are also building 172 additional classrooms at various schools to increase their capacity, and 15 million rand will be spent on building 108 grade R classrooms. Maintenance of our existing schools also remains a priority. 373 million rand will be allocated towards the maintenance of buildings. It is unfortunate that we have to spend money on repair work at schools as a result of burglary and vandalism or other unforeseen circumstances, such as storm damage. In 2016-17, 10 million rand has been allocated to the Emergency Maintenance Fund, which will assist in repairing schools that have fallen victim to such events. Madam Speaker, I know safety of our learners and educators remains a great concern for every parent and the WCED. It is a reality that in the Western Cape we are faced with the scourge of gangsterism and violence, which is plaguing some of our communities. Intentionally or unintentionally, this often spills over into our schools. The WCED's Safe Schools Directorate has been designed to assist with this through crime prevention and behavioural programs. This year we will invest 30 million rand into the Safe Schools program. While this funding will not necessarily end violence in and around our schools, it will be used to provide and reinforce targeted security infrastructure, support to schools such as burglar alarms and bars, stone guards, access gates and behavioural interventions. Another priority of the Western Cape Government is to provide opportunities for all learners to access a quality education, including those children who experience barriers to learning. Western Cape already leads the country in the provision of special needs education. 1.1 billion rand will be allocated to special needs education, an increase of 30.4 million rand from last year. Madam Speaker, it is clear from the budget that I've outlined that despite facing budgetary constraints, we as a government have quite rightly done everything possible to minimize the effects on our poor learners. An enormous amount of work has gone into this, and I must thank our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Eli, Chief Director, Ms. Feldman, and their team for their dedication and innovation in this regard. Through the strategies and interventions I've outlined today, it is my hope that education in the Western Cape will continue to grow from strength to strength, and that we will continue to see an improvement in our priority areas, as well as hopefully maintaining the top position in the country. I look forward to the year ahead and even some of the challenges that it may bring. We are one innovative and very committed team in education, and I am pleased with how we have managed the really hard knocks that have been dealt with in the past year. As you have seen from the achievers we have here today, we also have very talented and committed learners and very dedicated teachers and parents who help them to achieve what they have done. We will need to rely on all our inner strengths during this extremely difficult period, but I am confident that we will get through this stronger on the other side. I cannot end, of course, without thanking the Superintendent General, Penny Vinjevold, for her extremely hard work in difficult circumstances, all WCED officials, our district directors, circuit managers and staff for their dedication and commitment to making education better together in this province. And last but certainly not least, a very big thank you to the excellent team in my office, who really are incredible, and of course my family for their ongoing support. Thank you very much.
I see the Honourable Kivedo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's good to be back. And thank you also for all the prayers that went out during my illness, my heart attack.